This episode of Muscle Cars and Hot Rods, we're back on the 1968 Camaro. We got a little collision repair to do on the right rocker, and we've got to fix the backup lights. So check it out. It's time to get a little more work done on the 1968 Chevy Camaro. So we pulled the front end off the car and put the motor and transmission in it to see what kind of modifications or mock-up we're going to need as we're preparing to do up the firewall and get it going. But now, seems how the front end is off the car, we're going to take a chance at a little bit of collision work that needs to be done. You can see here the rocker is just smashed up, so we're going to section in a new piece of rocker, and someone along the lines just went ahead and welded in a little bit of support, and you can still see a little kink here. We can do a little, it works pretty good, the fender bolts up and everything, but we can do a little bit better than that. So I'm going to weld this piece of steel on. We'll hook our little clamp up to the steel, run a chain down through, jack it up, and while we're doing that, we'll take the hammer and hammer that kink out for it. Let's get started. Okay, we've got our jack on it. We're pushing the body up. We've got our spot welded and tied down, and now we're just going to put a little bit of pressure here to straighten out that kink. A little more pressure on it. Hit it a little more. Take our measurements. And we got to just keep working it like that until we get it where we want it. Okay, we've got our pillar cut down to within an 1/8 inch. That's within tolerance. I could live with that. We might have to shove a little body shim in. And then we got our rocker panel cut off again. And as we're getting our look up in here, this inner structure is a little bent up, but I think I can deal with that. Right now we're looking to Goodmark for our rocker skin, and I'll probably end up coming down to about here and all the way to the pinch weld. And we'll probably run a butt weld all the way across the front here, and that way we don't have to get up in and affect our jam. Just one last feature before we put the front end back on the vehicle. I just took care of a little rust spot under the fan on the firewall. Little rust patch. Okay, we're gonna get a rocker panel in from Goodmark, which is now one of the distributors of Goodmark is Keystone, so that's kind of cool. We can get it through our Keystone account. So we're going to turn our attention while we're waiting for that outer rocker to the rear tail panel. Check out what's happening. We're looking at the rear tail panel. We see the lower RS backup lights. This was installed by the last restoration shop, and if we take our template, which is off an original RS Camaro, and we line it up with our holes, you can see that the last shop put it in wrong. So we have to weld up this hole, but not only this hole, the hole in the inner panel as well. So we go over to the right side. We can see I've got my patch made, I've got my vice grips on it, I've got it backed up with copper, and I'm going to begin the weld. We've got our outside patch made, we're going to weld that up. Okay, we got our patch most of the way welded in. Still got to grind a little bit done. Went ahead and shoved our template up in the right spot. And I scribed onto the original panel. You can see that I cut it just a little bit small because I like to cut it out small and then file it up to the line and make it exactly the way it ought to be. So that's where we're at. And then this right here is that original. That's how far off they were. We got our hole drilled for the tail light. I went and made me a template, and here's a part where it gets a little bit tricky, and so you want to watch. If you look at the light, there's a right and a left, and that's because the actual housing's offset. If you look up here in the hole, the frame rail comes back here, so you need the housing to be offset to the side. And so when you're doing this, you'll notice that the mounting holes are on the tight angle on the right side, and then on the left side they're opposite. They'll be here and here, over to the other side. And so let's see, the way that it's distinguished is if you got the right lamp, you notice the mounting holes for the lenses are a little bit high. And so when you put the lamp in there, this is your top, as you can see here. The pattern of the refractor gets loose up top and tight at the bottom, and the two mounting holes are towards the top for that. And you can see we got our hole drilled in there. So now I just got to sand in here real good and put a coat of epoxy down to prevent any rusting from happening. And then we can go ahead and put our filler on the front and get it done. Okay, and so these right here that Cindy's putting in her car are some repops. Travis happened to have a pair of original ones, and what he was telling me was on the original cars, they just create a big round hole for where this goes. And so you can see the difference. The bolt pattern still lines up the same on both. And actually what it looks like is turned around is this part right here is turned around from the original. So if you're turning your regular Camaro into an RS like we're doing, make sure that you pay attention if you get those repops. It was pretty nice to have those original backup lights to be able to compare the two and see the differences. Repops a lot of the times they're close enough, but they're not going to be 100%. So, you know, just dot your I's and cross your T's, you'll get there. Here we are, they're all installed. Last little bit of detail we'll do is you can see the wires for the lights hanging down. We got to drill into the trunk, and we're just going to bring the wiring harness to make sure we get the hole in the right spot. Seems how the last guy screwed up. I don't want to copy them and do the same. So we'll get the wiring harness in there, figure out exactly where we want to put the holes through the trunk, and the Rally Sport tail light, or reverse lights I should say, will be installed. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Be sure to tune in next time.